What if you could earn 3 times your current salary without working more hours? In just 3 years, I've tripled my salary as a development manager working in construction. And in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 5 principles I used so you can start to make moves to achieve the same today. You'll be shocked at how much easier it is than you may think. The first principle will go against what most people believe. I sit here before you today as one of the youngest senior VPs in the industry. How? Well, let's take a look at a real world example. Take Adam and myself. We were both going for promotion at the same time, and Adam had been at the job for like 5 years, and his experience in the company meant that he thought he knew everything, but unfortunately he held really long meetings without any specific agendas. He delayed progress by not having key information to hand at all times, and spent all day being busy with emails and frequently missed upcoming risks, and his projects unfortunately were always delayed. Now let's look at my strategy at the same stage. I'd only been in the job for about a year, but I made sure that I ran meetings efficiently and with purpose, and I always had the most vital and key information to hand, which enabled decision making and constant progress, and I automated as much busy work as I possibly could, so I was always able to focus on mitigating the primary risks before they came massive issues. So when it came time for the promotion interviews, who do you think went in there and built a case around the amount of time that they'd been at the company? And who do you think went in there and built their case around quantifiable metrics showing significant value that had been added to the company in a relatively short period of time? No prizes for guessing who won. It's me, because the first principle is being prepared will usually trump experience. Make sure you're always showing up to meetings with answers prepared. Know your project, make sure you're across all the detail and automate as much of the busy work as you possibly can, because it will help you get ahead and focus on the more critical tasks, and watch your job not only get easier, but your reputation for results will skyrocket, which is important because your reputation is all you have in this industry. And the truth is, you might be the longest serving and highest performer in your team, but the co-worker who's doing the same job as you, who only joined 3 months ago, who's probably doing the bare minimum, could still be taking home more than you. And I'll pull from another real world personal experience here. Let's take a look at Barry and me. When I joined the company, Barry had been there for 8 years. Every company has a Barry. He's reliable, he gets the job done, he's well informed, and he's comfortable in his role and his abilities. However, during those 8 years that Barry was working for the same company, I sought out and took opportunities within 3 separate companies, and I got a significant salary bump every single time. So by the time I came to work with Barry and we were doing the same job at a relatively same pace, I knew I was being paid significantly more, not only because we had a conversation about it one day, but also because I know that our main principle number 2 is that competitors pay, and they pay way more than your average annual 2% salary increase. The truth is that companies will pay a premium to lure you from a competitor, far more than they'll ever offer their own staff in annual raises, because people seldom move roles without a significant increase in salary. It's also the fastest way to jump in title if your current job's promotion structure is slower than a tower being built by Adam, from example number 1. Little callback humor for you there. But the fact is that if money is important to you, then don't get complacent. Changing jobs can be unsettling because the learning curve to understand the project, the people, and the company is steep every time, but that's how you begin to outperform and leapfrog the people around you. I know for a fact that you significantly increase your skills and adaptability, which in time reduces the learning curve and time it takes for new project information to be absorbed, which in itself makes your skill set significantly more valuable. And fortune favors the bold, we've all heard it. So if you're feeling adventurous, then keep listening, because there's another invisible layer that most people never even see as an option, but it's a move that can multiply your salary far beyond what your current CEO is taking home. The third principle won't be for everyone, but it can triple your take home in one move, like it did for me. And for this example, we'll look at another direct scenario, Charlie and me. And while these stories are real, I've got to say the names I'm using are fictitious, so no one calls me up one day and says, hey, why are you talking shit about me on the internet? Anyway, so me and Charlie have both been in the industry for 10 years and have both moved amongst competitors and use the same strategy. And Charlie continued to work the system, staying put in a company for 2 years or so before moving on to a competitor who would offer a few extra thousand a year, which, let's be honest, after tax, we all know, doesn't really have a massive impact on your take-home salary in your day-to-day living. Whereas I, on the other hand, took a massive risk and a massive plunge, and I moved from my job in London to my first job in the Middle East, instantly doubling my take-home salary due to taxes, or lack of, from £4,000 a month take-home to well over £8,000 a month. Plus, this particular job came with accommodation and food and all expenses paid for, so I had no outgoing. So whereas before in London I was maybe netting and saving and investing £500 to £800 a month, here I was pretty much able to do all those things with £8,000 a month. Honestly, it was a pretty terrifying move to start with, but the amount of money saved in the first year, I know for a fact, took Charlie 10 years to save in the UK, because principle number 3 is location matters. For example, when I started as a graduate in the UK, I was making around £1,600 a month take home. And when I took my second job in the Middle East, I realized that I was still writing very similar project status update reports, the same kind of reports that I'd been writing as a graduate, only this time the pay was north of £12,000 a month. It was the same job, just a different location and a huge difference in salary. But regardless of where you decide to situate yourself, you're not always going to be moving around, especially if your company does offer a decent promotion structure. So now we need to think about how can you increase your salary between these significant moves and jumping arounds that you're going to be doing in between those 2 to 3 year time gaps. And here's exactly how you do that. Before I start, I've got to say that this one might push a few people out of their comfort zone, but eventually it'll become second nature. But I worked with a guy called Dean, and Dean was like fantastic at his job, like world class, one of the best I've actually seen still to this day in our industry. And he was well respected, he had a great reputation, he was proactive, high agency, he was approachable and really well liked within the entire company. But Dean's only downfall was that he wasn't overly assertive when it came time to review periods. And because of that, Dean never went out of his way to ask for pay rises or promotions. Because he was so good at his job, he was making the mistake of expecting to get what he actually deserved, which everybody knows in the corporate world is a rarity. So that's why principle number 4, you've got to be assertive, because at the end of the day, a business is a business. No matter how good you are at your job, they will always try and pay you the lowest they can get away with, because it makes sense for their bottom line to try to do so. And if you're not sending any signals to communicate that you're unhappy with your salary, why would they pay you more if they don't need to? So look, every company has a quarterly or biannual review period with senior management, and this determines who's going to be in line for promotion or a pay rise. And the first thing you need to do is find out when in the calendar year that those meetings are taking place, and make sure that in the lead up to them, you're making it extremely clear in all of your one-on-ones that you want to progress in the company, that you want to get promoted, that you want more take-home salary for the work you're doing and for your family to benefit from. Be a thorn in their side if you have to be. Obviously, don't go overboard and start shouting in everyone's face that you're unhappy and you want more money, but make sure that there's no excuse that anyone can come back to you and say they didn't know that you actually wanted more. Ensure that every single interaction you have with key decision makers, they at least know your name. So when those conversations start to happen, they've got an image of you in their head that they can associate with to make that decision easier for them. So it's not something that everybody feels comfortable with, and it's exactly why someone like Dean, who more than deserved to be paid twice his salary, didn't get what he was actually worth. But of course, simply just asking for more money isn't enough. And I'll run you through another personal, real-world example to bring this point home. My colleague, this one we will call Ed, he wanted a promotion. But unfortunately, Ed didn't really do much work. He talked a good game, and if he was paid for his confidence alone, he'd be running the bloody company. But Ed didn't really have much in the way of deliverables to show for himself when it came to these review periods. On the other hand, I'm always tracking every single one of my deliverables. Every week, I'm always able to quantify and articulate the exact value that I've brought to the company. That's why our principle number 5 is just to be better than average at your job. I'll say that again. You only have to be slightly better than average at your job to seem like a superstar, which might seem obvious, but the more global experience I've accumulated across the industry, the more that I have to accept that so many people just don't care, and that's really their prerogative. But you can't always expect time served, loyalty, or simply just asking to guarantee you a pay rise. You have to track your deliverables. You have to keep a log of your specific individual achievements. You have to set your KPIs and do what others aren't willing to do in order to stand out. Now, this doesn't have to be changing the world. Just take 5 seconds right now to think of the biggest annoyance, frustration, or risk or issue that your team, project, or company is currently facing, and just try and solve it yourself. For example, the way I did this with something minute that got company-wide exposure and recognition was just creating a template to collect meeting notes. After I realized that no one was actually capturing meeting points and chasing up on them, I spent 5 minutes creating a Word document. I started using it successfully, and before I knew it, it was being issued around the company as the standard format that everybody had to use. See, people think they need to make industry-changing multi-million-pound deals to get a promotion, but they really don't. It can literally be something as creating a new template like a risk register or a budget tracker or any kind of small problem that needs to be solved, or creating new meetings to solve communication issues. So when it's time to talk about your promotion or have these reviews, if you arm yourself with just 2 or 3 of these improvements, I guarantee that you will have 2 or 3 more improvements that you've brought to the company than any of your other colleagues. And if your company still doesn't want to provide you and pay you the value you're worth, then take this list of improvements, head back to strategy number 2, and find a company who will. Because even in job interviews, adding this kind of stuff to your CV, talking about this kind of stuff in your job interviews shows people that you are proactive, high agency, and you take accountability for things when they're broken. But if you find yourself buried under admin and you don't actually have time to focus on all of your KPIs and setting up these new processes, but you are serious about getting promoted and outperforming all of your other colleagues, then watch this video here to learn how you can automate nearly all of the admin in your life so you can start to make that pay rise happen faster.